Alright, since it's still fairly early in the ending of the seasonal shows and stuff, like it's still the 24th when I'm recording this, we're just going to keep going down the list in chronological order of when stuff ends. So, up next is Kakushite Makina-san. I don't know what this is at all, other than it being an unlicensed show that I think is an ecchi show. Hopefully it's better than that other ecchi show that was terrible. Let's find out.
Well, they certainly made the smart choice of leading with the full frontal titties. It's a shame everything else about the show is just not interesting at all. I at least watched the first episode of Makina-san's A Love Bot. It's just ecchi with a really dumb android subplot to it. And I know there's not going to be any actual, like, sex in it because it's not a hentai, it's just ecchi. The main character is an annoying, wimpy little nerd dude who I have no interest in whatsoever. Makina-san is very hot. I will give it that. I will give it that the titties are nice. They are very nice titties. But I could just watch hentai instead. I have no interest in being blue-balled.
Alright, Makina-san off the list. Up next, the Mononoke lecture logs of Chuzenji-sensei. I think this one's also unlicensed. Haven't heard anyone talk about it. From the key visual, it looked like it was maybe like a mystery drama or something. And of course, it's got Mononoke, so got a little bit of Mononoke and yokai action in it. Let's see what this one's about.
Yeah, I probably should have known this wasn't going to be a very good-looking show when I noticed how long the opening shot of a cat lying under a tree was going. And then I went back and checked the time code for how long that shot lasted. 50 seconds. 50 seconds of just a cat barely moving under a tree at me. It's a long shot, by the way. Not a medium or a close-up. It was a long shot of a cat. This show does not look good. The brown tones are very ugly. CG Bus was super fucking ugly. This is just gonna be another, like, Mononoke yokai mystery show from the looks of it. And there doesn't seem to be anything that stands out about this one other than its icky brown color palette. So I have nothing to say about this one. Oh, no, wait, there was one other thing I was gonna say. I forgot. It was like a really... Right. I've never known people who are... Maybe it's just because I grew up in the 2000s in, like, fairly populated suburbs, but, like, I've never known people who were, like, super into ghosts and superstition. And so like, the premise of this one is, like, they think they see a ghost, that where you see that ghost, you're going to die in a month. And the girl who saw the ghost starts having a panic attack because, like, she thinks she's gonna die. And, like, I've just never known anyone like that. I'm sure they exist, but I just have never encountered anything like that in real life, where people believe so strongly in a curse that they think they're going to die. And, like, start panicking over it. And again, this is a teenage girl, so I guess it's a little bit more understandable, maybe. But I don't know. I've just never encountered anything like that. It's weird. Still, this show's ugly though, so I'm gonna give it a pass.
Okay, gonna strike this one from the list as well. Next is Yandere Dark Elf. This is one of the few high dive licenses for the season. In fact, I think it's only one of two. This one got a lot of buzz before the season started and then immediately fell off. So let's see if that fall off is warranted.
Boy, High Dive sure does love the half-episode gimmicky ecchi slop. I was gonna open this with, boy, High Dive sure does love the reverse isekai stuff. But apparently both are true. This show looks fucking disgusting. It's real bad looking. It's not good. I got a few minutes into Yandere Dark Elf. It's bad looking. The voice acting is terrible. The comedy is terrible. It's just annoying. It's about as annoying as someone capitalizing on the Yandere craze 5 years late to the Yandere craze as you could imagine. And 5 years is probably generous. There's nothing good to say about this show, actually. It's like, to compare it to Makina-san, since it's basically the same genre of show, at least Makina-san had good tits. Although I can't, not, like, High Dive's version of Yandere Elf is censored, so I can't perfectly judge the tits. But even then, like, it's barely censored. They basically just censor the areolas, so it's like, I can still tell they're not good tits, because it's just not good. But not only do they censor the girl tits, they also censor the boy tits. So, gender equality? That's the most noteworthy thing about this show, is that they censored the main guy's nipples. I have nothing else to say. This is trash. It's just so not good.
Okay, sorry High Dive, but you struck out with that one. Next is ZatsuTabi. That's Journey. This one's got heavy Yuru Camp vibes from what I've seen of it, in terms of like cute girls going out into Japanese scenery and such. Although I've heard this one's not as good, but you know, who knows? Let's give it a shot and see if it fills the niche that it's trying for.
Yeah, that was basically Kroger brand Uter Camp. Real, we have Uter Camp at home energy from this one. I got a little over 3 episodes into ZatsuTabi, Zat's Journey, which is a fun little pun. ZatsuTabi, because tabi is like journey. But it just doesn't have the sauce. It really does not have that little extra oomph to make these slice of life, cute girls doing cute things, hobby shows interesting. So this one's basically like a travel show, and I'm going to do my best not to just do one-to-one comparisons to Yuru Camp, because that's just unfair. But it's certainly inviting the comparison a lot of the time. But it's just not as interesting, I guess. Whereas Yuru Camp was like very specific. Like, I feel like camping is a much easier thing to like dive into than just travel, just visiting different famous Japanese locations, because it feels more, whereas with Yuri Camp it feels like, oh, this is someone getting invested in a hobby and learning how everything works and all of that. Whereas this show, it's like, this feels like a Travel Channel show, but it's anime. And it's not a, if it's trying to be like a Travel Channel show, it's not a particularly good one. It's because it's like not really good at showcasing the locations very well. Like, I don't see these locations that they're showing me and think, wow, I really want to go there. I see this and go, wow, that was a location. So if that's what its angle is, and it's trying to be like a, wow, look at all these cool locations, it's not really doing that for me, because it's just as photorealistic as anime can get with background art. So it's not like going for the... So it's still not live action footage. So that's not what the place looks like. But also it's not abstract enough to make it look artistic in a way. I'm not saying that it's like not art or anything, but it just isn't... I do not like the vibe of, we are going to make the backgrounds as realistic looking as possible. I don't like that vibe. Even in Yuri Camp, I'm not super into that. Although I think Yuri Camp still does a much better job with color design. I'm much more in like the Yamano Susume camp, where it's like, make it look like a landscape. Don't make it look like the landscape. Make it look like a landscape, and then sculpt that landscape into something extremely artistic looking. I made a whole video where that wasn't the whole point of the video, but I touched on that a little bit in my video. What was it? Animation you can't get anywhere else. So there's that. Also, these characters just aren't that interesting. Half of them are manga authors, but we don't really get a sense for the kind of manga that they draw, or why they draw, or what inspires them. Because that's the whole impetus for this show, actually, is the main character goes on a journey to be inspired so that she can add a little more oomph to her manga, and that just never comes up, ever. Like, it only comes up at like the very end of the episode where she's like, got rejected again. Don't care. Also, much like other shows of this similar genre, the compositing is extremely iffy. Very much feels like a lot of the time the character models are just pasted on top of these hyper-realistic backgrounds. This is one of the worst ones I've seen for this genre. Yuri Camp is usually pretty good at making the compositing work. Not all the time, but it usually works. This one does not work at all, and I think it's because the character designs are a little more a little more like traditionally anime, or not, just like a little bit. The character models don't work well with what they're trying to do. They're a little too detailed in the wrong areas, I guess. And they're fine character models. The main character's design, I think, is where all the effort went, because all the other character models are just totally unremarkable in every way. So yeah, it's not bad. It's just I thought I was hooked after the first episode. I wouldn't say I was hooked after the first episode. I was like, oh, this is nice and pleasant. I will probably have an okay time watching this. And as they added in more characters and went to more places, I was like, oh, this show doesn't have anything else to say or doesn't have anything else to present. It's just a little hollow, I guess. Yeah, it's just does, much like the main character's manga, this one just doesn't have that hook.
Well, another strikeout, unfortunately. ZatsuTabi coming off the list. Next is, what the fuck do I call this? Hashtag Compass 2.0? Stupid fucking title. I expect nothing from you. Let's see.
You know, if anything should be removed from the seasonal wrap-up show, should be these fucking anime with absolute goddamn nonsense titles that get zero marketing. I watched like 4 minutes of what is hashtag Compass 2.0. I have absolutely no clue what's going on. I don't understand the premise. It says that heroes are fighting in this, like, competition, this combat competition. It looks like a sports... It looks like Overwatch. It feels like Overwatch, but with less shooting and just more melee stuff. I don't know what heroes means. Are they video game characters? Is this a virtual reality thing that people are playing? Or are they actual heroes? I don't know. I've watched like 5 minutes of this show and they have not clarified that point. Which you would think you would do. Like, that's not like it's a twist or anything. It's a what the fuck is happening kind of thing. I don't understand what is happening. I don't understand why there's a guy just flying around getting chased by the sentry robots. I don't understand anything. What is this shit?
Okay, off the list. Just not even worth mentioning. Next is the Shiunji family children. I believe this is from the guy who did Rent a Girlfriend, I believe, and it's a incest but not really incest rom-com. Also, I think it's by Doga Kobo, so at the very least, it might look pretty. Fuck it, let's give it a try.
So this is what that terrorist was doing when he wasn't writing the cuck manga. Not much of an improvement. This anime is fucking abrasive right out of the gate. Hate all of the love interests, except the one that didn't talk. It's just so fucking bad. It's so bad. It is trope city. Trope city, bitch. Trope city, bitch. Just tsundere. Do the tsundere thing. Kudere science girl. Do the kudere science girl thing. Mature one. Do the mature thing. Sporty girl. Do the sporty girl thing. Shy girl. Do the shy girl thing. And just don't talk. Fuck, man. What is wrong? First of all, A, how did this get a manga? B, how did this get an anime? This fucking sucks. One of the worst tsunderes I've ever seen so far. And I'm assuming she's a tsundere because I assume she's going to have the dere part come up at some point because this is a rom-com harem manga. That's not actually incest, I believe, but is like inseki, I believe is the tag for that. Oh my god, it's at least Doga Kobo made this look not complete trash, but that also upsets me in another way because this was wasted. Dogakobo's talents was wasted on this fucking trash. It's like, the character designs are good. It's just that the characters are total shit. The main guy's total shit. Everything is shit except how it looks. And even then, it's not, like, directed incredibly interestingly. I'll give it to, like, the art design and the color palette and all that. But it's all shit. I hate it.
Oh my god, get this fucking garbage off the list. Just get it away from me. Okay. We'll make this the last one before we jump down to the next end cap. Apocalypse Hotel. This is an anime original, if I recall. That's been a little bit, not divisive, but just not quite up there with this other big seasonal stuff. I like me some anime originals. I don't really have any clue what this could be about. Let's give it a shot. I sure hope it's good.
Alright, I think I gave that show way more leeway than I normally would for a show like this and for how much I actually like this show, but I don't think I want to go through this whole thing. I got through 4.5 episodes of Apocalypse Hotel, which is an anime original from Cygames, I believe. Cygames Pictures. Not necessarily Cygames, the game maker, but the anime studio. I don't know who the director is. I'll have to look that up later because it is actually a pretty well-directed series in terms of, like, visual presentation. This is a pretty good-looking show. The character designs might fool you into thinking that it's not because they are very plain designs. There's not a lot of... Plain in that there's not a lot of, like, hyper detail to them. These are very easy to animate designs, which is good because there are some really nice action cuts here and there. The color design is really solid. Love the background art. Love this apocalyptic world that we have been dropped into. I love pretty much everything about how this show looks. But man, this story is no good. I will say, first episode, really liked, because it's just like, oh, this hotel, after all the humans left for space, this hotel was left in the charge of a bunch of autonomous robots, and they are just waiting for humanity to return, and seeing them, like, go about their daily lives, just waiting for humans to come back, was really fun. This would have been like if that first episode was just like a single episode OVA or something, it would have been pretty fun. I probably would have given it like a 7 or something. But instead, what this show actually is about a bunch of alien races who come to Earth and end up visiting this hotel, and the hotel staff, our main attendant, Yachio in particular, having to navigate the different customs and languages that come with that. And I do not like most of the guest characters in this show, or even most of the non-staff characters either, because there's another robot that shows up later, the environmental checker robot or whatever. He fucking sucks. Do not like him at all. Very annoying character. The Tanukians are mostly very annoying. I found the second episode to be not bad, but very frustrating, because it's all entirely about the language barrier of just Yachio not being able to talk to this alien at all. And I feel like if that had happened for like a half episode, it would have been fine, but it's like the whole episode, so it got a little frustrating as it went on. And then the Tanukians showed up, and as I said, I can't fucking stand them. The giant worm episode caught me off guard, I will admit. I didn't fully like that, but I thought the thrill of it all and the sort of hidden darkness that's building up in Ponko's character, one of the Tanukians. I think that's her name, Ponko? The little girl Tanukian. But I just don't care for the hotel guest shenanigans at all. It's just not... It's either not interesting to me or it's actively abrasive. I do not like it, which is a shame because there is so much potential in this premise. There is so much here that could work. I hate to say it, but if it was less comedic, I think this would have been real. I think I just want to rewatch Girls Last Tour, actually. I think that's what I want to do. Because I want to... Yeah, because actually it doesn't even need to be less comedic, because Girls Last Tour was also very comedic at times. It's just, I don't think the focus is in the right place, I guess. I'm much more interested in this apocalyptic world than I am the aliens that visit it. They are all very boring or very annoying. I do not care for them. The first guest was okay. This green alien thing that couldn't communicate with anybody. He was fine. Frustrating, but fine. Everything after that has been annoying. Now, granted, there's only been 2 other ones after that I've seen so far, but they have been either tremendously annoying or I just don't care for them at all. And I'm pretty sure the only reason I gave this show 4.5 episodes instead of 3 or even 2 is because this is an original anime. This is like a just from the ground up original project that's just here to be an interesting anime. And boy, we just do not get enough of those at this point. It's not like we're getting none, but we are not getting enough. And so I was being much more supportive of this show than I would if this were like an adaptation of a manga or something. Because the ideas are there. The ideas are definitely there. But they're just not, the focus just isn't right for me. It's just not focusing on the things that I find interesting about this world. I guess that's the long and short of it. And also, boy, I do not like most of the comedy, mostly because it's just so abrasive at times with these fucking characters. The Tanuki family in particular, they just fucking suck. I don't like them at all. So yeah, for all of the effort that went into this and all of the talent that went into this, unfortunately, the script just isn't there.
Oh my god, that's another 7 strikeouts in a row. Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, Apocalypse Hotel's coming off the list. So let's remedy that by jumping down to our next end cap. Musume Cinderella Grey. I'm a big ol' Musume fan. And I believe this one's actually adapted from a manga, which would be a first for the Musume series. And the manga's been getting hyped for years now, if I recall. So, I think this one's about Oguri Cap, who's the glutton side character that we've seen a lot so far. Fuck it, we ball. Show me them horse girls.
Alright, we definitely got a winner with that one. I just finished up all of Musume Cinderella Grey, or at least the first season, because second season or second core or whatever doesn't air until October, I believe. But, oh boy, that was a fucking ride. And I expect I'm going to be yawning a lot during this recording because I could feel myself starting to tap out at the end of or like halfway through the second to last episode. But I was just so fucking amped up to or so hyped to finish this show that I just pushed all the way through. On the one hand, it's more of what makes Uma Musume fucking great. It's more Uma Musume. There are some core concepts to this franchise that never really change because they are part of what makes this show so fucking addictive and fun and hype. Obviously, the competitive aspects of it is... Actually, I want to lead off with... I've probably mentioned this in the past with other Uma Musume entries because this is now, I think, my 4th time covering Uma Musume for the seasonal wrap-up show. We did Road to the Top and then Season 3. Actually, no, because this is the 5th time because I did go back and cover Season 2 as like a catch-up thing. Way back. So yeah, I did Season 2, then Road to the Top, then Season 3, and Beginning of a New Era. And now we're on Cinderella Grey. But one of the things that is so underrated about Uma Musume that I just don't see talked about enough is how fucking good the editing is. Like, the shot-to-shot editing, especially during the races, is fucking phenomenal. It is so immensely gripping and tightly pieced together damn near perfectly. And along with that, the sound design is just insanely good. Like, this is something that I don't really bring up a whole lot, but like, sound design in anime is rarely phenomenal. It's not usually bad. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's pretty mediocre. But most of the time it really doesn't stand out all that much. Which, on the one hand, good. You don't want people to notice bad sound design. But there aren't like a ton of instances of incredible sound design. But I would say that Uma Musume is definitely one of those instances, which is weird because I looked it up, and this goes for the editing too. It's like they don't really share a lot of the staff across different seasons. It's normally not like the same sound editor or the same or not the same sound designer or not the same editor, not even the same director across all of the series. And yet, it still manages to share some unified concepts on a tactile level, which I guess goes to show how much effort or how much resources are being put into this franchise as a whole. Because it's like, the only bad Uma Musume has been the first season, because that was like a proof of concept season as the fucking... I believe I talked about this in my Anime News Network video about it, but the first season actually came out before the mobile game because the mobile game ended up getting delayed in Japan. And consequently, I am recording this like 3 or 4 days after the mobile game came out in the US is when I'm recording this. So everyone on Twitter's got Uma Musume fever, and just them seeing all of these classic Uma Musumes that I've seen throughout the years as anime characters and seeing them in mobile games like, wait, who's TM Opera O and why is she crushing me in every fucking race? I'm like, oh, buddy. So it's been a fun time on the social medias and stuff lately. But in any case, Cinderella Grey specifically, it's just as well edited and well sound designed as every other Uma Musume, but it does have some key differences, at least visually. Like this, and like tonally as well. This is probably, I don't want to say the darkest Musume entry. It is, but it is the most serious and potentially the most angsty, I would say. Before this, I would have said Beginning of a New Era was more so that, which I think I mentioned in my review of it. But this one is just like, it's much more, it's a little bit more like very direct conflict heavy in a lot of senses. There are a lot more like open spats between the different girls in this show. A lot more like negative energy from certain characters. And if I recall correctly, this is the first one to show blood, I believe. Like we get several, I should say blood in like a serious sense, because I'm sure, like, we're not counting like anime nosebleeds. Like, there are nosebleeds in this show, but they're like sort of like almost serious nosebleeds from like overexertion. And then there's also this one shot of Oguri Cap getting so frustrated that she digs her fingernails into her palm and causes it to bleed. And so, like, that's the tone that we're sort of going with for this entry in particular. Not all the time. It's still got the Uma Musume wackiness that you would kind of expect. But along with that, it's got these more serious moments as well. Not to say that previous entries didn't have serious moments, but the serious moments in Cinderella Grey seem to be the most serious, I guess I should say, in terms of how they're presented tonally, which is definitely an interesting change of pace, I believe. And also, this is the first one, I believe, to be an adaptation as well, of a pre-existing source material. All the other Uma Musume series have been just like straight from the mobile game to the anime. But Cinderella Grey was a manga first. It came out started publishing a couple years ago. I think it's still running. I'm not sure, but as far as I know, it's still running. So we, unfortunately, even after 2 seasons, we probably won't get an end to this story. But it's interesting nonetheless. And I will say there was maybe one instance where, and this is just speculation, of like it being a manga adaptation might have slowed down the pacing in the climactic race a little too much via flashbacks and other bits of dialogue and stuff like that. That's just speculation on my part, but that's like one of the few places where I was like, the pacing's not quite as good as it could have been here. But aside from that, just I really enjoyed Cinderella Grey's take on the Uma Musume formula, especially because it allowed us to see different sides to certain characters that we've never seen before. Because, like, I believe this is technically a prequel to everything else Uma Musume so far. Or at least like the first 6 sorry, I'm very tired. At least the first 6 episodes or so are a prequel. They must be, because actually, it must all be like before everything else, because certain characters also have not shown up yet. But I did like what was I getting at? Different sides of characters that we haven't seen before. I was specifically talking about Simboli Rudolph with that one, because she's always just sort of been like a on the tangents, on the periphery of the plot for everything. Even back in season 1, if I recall, she didn't have that much to do. And season 2, she was more of just like an inspiration figure for Tokai Teo, which still have the figure for her back there in the corner there. But in Cinderella Grey, she actually has a but she has an active role in the plot for a little bit, with this sort of trying to get the racing association to bend the rules for Ogre Cap and stuff, and just see the intensity with which she comports herself was just fucking spine-chilling and enrapturing. That's one of the things about another thing about Uma Musume in general, but in particular, I think with Cinderella Grey, they really went all in on these very striking close-ups of the faces with these very serious looks on them, with the color design just going all wacky, with these very deep blues and blacks and purples and such. It goes along with that more serious tone that I mentioned earlier, and in a lot of instances just becomes downright terrifying, especially in sort of this imagery of Ogre Cap as this like beast-like character. Which, speaking of which, I've kind of been dancing around her this whole review now. I'm just now getting to the main character of this show, of this particular entry, Ogre Cap, who, when I found out that that's who Cinderella Grey was about, I was like, the gag character? The one that's just in the background of all the other shows with her fucking belly sticking out of her shirt because she eats so much? That's going to be the main character of this show? Okay, let's see how that works. And I gotta admit, I'm fucking floored that not only did they make her a fascinating character, or at the very least a very engaging character, but they didn't sacrifice the gag part of it. That is still very much part of her character for the more lighthearted scenes, and yet it doesn't take away from the more serious and more complex parts of her character. Which, she's not a super complex character, at least until near the end, where she really starts to develop more interesting ideas about what motivates her to race and how she sort of relates to other racers, Tamamo Cross in particular. But the simplicity of her intro was very much a boon to her, to getting me on her side with this just sort of this idea of like, my knees were all fucked up for a really long time, but my mom massaged my legs until I was able to walk, and the reason I run is because I am able to run. And it's such an incredibly simple but incredibly effective way to make this character likable and make you want her to win and such. Sorry, I'm very, very tired. I spread myself too thin watching, I watched 9 episodes of Uma Musume today. I wanted to watch more yesterday, but I also passed out yesterday on my couch. But that just goes to show how fucking engaging this show is. Even right down to the music, which, I noticed in this like final episode or the second to final episode, I was like, this sounds like Pokemon battle music almost. Maybe that's why I'm vibing with it so hard. Like it sounded like something that would play during like a gym battle during this final race. I was like, I'm fucking all about this. This is so hype. I love it. I don't. I don't. I'm already forgetting all of the things that I said already in this review, but I don't. If I didn't say it already, along with the more serious tone for this show, the color palette is actually a little bit different as well. Whereas seasons 2 and 3 and Road to the Top were fairly standard with their color palette, but also like very vibrant and eye-catching and very appealing with this sort of eye candy kind of very bright and saturated color design. And whereas beginning of a New Era had just this very deep saturation to the color design, where it just felt incredibly explosive and poppy. Cinderella Grey takes the opposite approach to all of that. It is, for lack of a better term, a little bit more gray. The color design is a little more desaturated. There's a lot more starkness to it, to sort of reflect the more serious tone of it all. But it never just goes completely colorless. It never feels drab. It never feels lifeless. It just feels like the lighting is a little harsher and it's a little bit less fun-loving, I guess I should say. But like the lighting work is still fucking solid. The character designs are still fucking phenomenal. Occasionally I did catch some weak compositing stuff during some of the racing scenes. Like the first episode in particular, like actually kind of scared me a little bit because I looked at it and I was like, uh-oh, we got some compositing issues here. I hope this isn't going to be like it for the rest of the series. And really, I only picked it up maybe one or two more times throughout the rest of this season. Otherwise, pretty solid compositing work. Very good at blending the CG racing models into the rest of the shot. Mostly because of how fast everything is moving. And I think Musume is one of the few shows that actually tries to match its frame rates. Like it actually... That's one of the reasons why a lot of bad CG sticks out in anime, is because it's rendered at a different speed than like typical anime. It's usually rendered at a much higher frame rate. And so it looks off. I think for Uma Musume, it's actually rendered at like the same general frame rate as the rest of the show. So it doesn't look quite as off. Like if you compare this to something just like more standard for the CG genre, like even for as good as it was, like G-Quux, the CG was still very CG. This is Uma Musume is just a really phenomenal example of like, there is definitely CG there, but you do not fucking notice it unless you are actively searching for it. So that's a huge plus. So I'm super scattershot about everything for this entry because A, because I'm tired, and B, because there's just so much to talk about. I guess I'll just briefly head on the other characters besides Ogre Recap. Mainly Tamamo Cross. Again, very simple motivation for what she's doing. her mentor-ish character is sick in the hospital, it looks like, and she wants to give him a win, which she does in the final race of this episode. Very cathartic. But also she's just sort of she's very much like Ogre Cap, in which she's just kind of a fucking beast, and she's just got this intense thirst within her. And also she easily has the best character design in the show so far. From this season, I will say. She easily has my favorite character design. It just works perfectly. And it's a good example of how this show isn't colorless. It's just very selective with its color usage. Because Tamamo Cross has this little brightness of color with her, with the blue and red to her racing outfit. Yeah, it just looks really fucking good. So this is, I've noticed sometimes when I am overwhelmed with things in a show that are good. I'm just sort of like, yeah, show good. It's good. I also really liked Fujimasa March as this sort of first half of the season boss character, mini boss sort of character, mini rival. Like, it seemed pretty obvious from the way that her personality contrasted with Ogre Cap that she wasn't going to be a rival for the entire series. But for what she served, for the role that she served, she does it incredibly fucking well as this sort of like more proper genius character, where she's very like straightforward and no nonsense kind of character, compared to Ogre, who's just this wild beast genius kind of character. Oh, one last thing I want to touch on before. Oh, actually, two last things. One, the title drop, half title drop at the mid-season climax was fucking great, because I had completely forgotten that this show was called Cinderella Grey for a while. They bring up the gray part a lot. It's sort of like, I guess there's this sort of thing of like, it's like a saying, I guess, that ashen-haired Uma Musume can't win big races, which I guess was probably a thing from like superstition in like real Japanese racing from a certain time period, I assume. So that's where the gray comes from, the ashen gray of their hair. But the Cinderella part it's a Cinderella story, which I'd completely forgotten about until her trainer character brought it up at this mid-season climax after one of her big wins. And I was just like, oh, wow, that hits perfectly. I'm about to tear up. Also, I really liked the relationship between Ogre and both of her trainers, because she ends up with one trainer for her regional section of this and then another trainer for the national section of it. And the conflict between her and her regional trainer, Joe, was very compelling and very heart-wrenching. And then the old man guy, Musaka, I think was his name, just very commanding of respect and like interest, I guess. Like, he really feels like a high-level trainer of sorts throughout the series. And then the one last thing I want to touch on is there is a misdirect / fake out in episode 9 that, even for seasonal wrap-up show, I don't want to spoil. But when I realized what was happening, I was fucking floored. I was shook by when I realized what had happened. Phenomenal directing and writing. Just, this show is so goddamn good. Is this my favorite Musume yet? I'm not sure. I don't think this is better than Beginning of a New Era yet. We'll see how season 2 goes. Is it better than like just straight up season 2 of Uma Musume? Maybe. I would have to rewatch it because I still can't decide whether I think season 2 with Tokai Teo is a strong 8 or a light 9. I keep waffling back and forth on where I think that falls. I think I do have a pretty good idea of where this one falls, though. Cinderella Grey is really, really damn good.
Alright, Cinderella Grey is complete. And we're just going to go all the way to the top here. In the number 1 spot. And you're getting a light 9. That's our first favorite of the season. And it is well fucking earned.